Before you start building your app, whatever your startup idea is, there's two really key things that you can do to make sure you're on the right path. And the reason that I can speak to this today is we're currently building an app in 2024 and 25, right? And I'm not a technology co-founder or founder, or no one in the team is. So I put in a couple of calls to people who I trust and have worked with in the past. One's a tech guy and runs a VC fund out of APAC, and the other just built an app, which took him 6 months. He's a developer. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking of building this. What do you think I should do? And it was really important because if I tried to do it on my own and even tried to figure out, okay, if I'm going to build something without being a tech person, how much money do I need to raise to build the thing? Do I need to find a tech co-founder? I would have been way off the mark because technology today is very different to what it was 5-10 years ago. You know, one of the great things about artificial intelligence and all the developments now is tech's a lot easier, dare I say it, and a lot of people are going to hate me for saying it, is easier to deliver and do. The hardest part is actually trying to figure out exactly what you're trying to build so that you can brief the people properly, whether they're your colleagues or a founder that you bring on or someone that you farm it off to. So the first piece of advice was it's not as expensive as you thought it was before. Because I was kind of doing some modeling on, if I'm going to go raise some funding for this idea, I'm going to need at least 250K for the technology if I don't have a tech co-founder, right? And that was born from thinking 5-10 years ago. That's just how much it costs, frankly, for the MVP, even if you went offshore, for multiple iterations, and then for maybe a year or two of support, right? He explained to me that it's not that expensive at all. And he actually told me to check out something, and if I get this name wrong, I'll correct it in the description, called Flutterflow. So it's no-code app development. It's a really cool thing that's come out in the recent years. And the whole idea behind it is if that you spend a solid month on it, which is what I'm going to try and do, you could build at least the skeleton or the framework or the foundation of whatever technology or whatever app you're trying to implement. And I think that's a really great exercise because before you start going out there and bringing on too many people, especially if you're still in solo founder mode and it's just the idea, mess around with it. You know, use this Flutterflow piece of technology to build this no-code app so that you can kind of see where you're going, right? Because it's very easy to go, I've got an idea, I need an app, and then you start with the most basic elements of it when you try and go raise funding or when you try and bring on someone like a co-founder or when you try and pay someone to do it. But you're actually missing the secret sauce that's really going to make people use it or have a good experience on it, right? And that brings me to my second point, which actually came from the other individual I spoke to. And he was a great, accidental or indirect mentor back in the day when I started my first business, which was called Two Space, where we turned restaurants that were closed during the day into a network of co-working spaces. And we had technology for people to check in and connect everyone who worked from all over Asia Pacific. If you're interested in that story, I talk all about it on my YouTube channel. There's a link in the description for this really long ass video where I talk about the start, how we hit a $10 million valuation, the technology, the pivots, the failures, and how it ended. But he was saying to me, because he's a dev, right? And he's been building something for the last 6 months on his own. Before I even start building, before I even go onto Flutterflow or whatever, or before I go engage someone, whether it be him or someone else who's a developer to build this thing for me, he said, think about what your magic moments are. Okay? And magic moments isn't, I've got this really cool idea and this is the problem it's going to solve and this is the functionality of it. It's what's the magic moments? What are the little things about the app that may not be the core use of it that makes someone feel surprised or interested or excited, whether it be a notification that pops up when they facilitate a transaction, where they check in somewhere and they get a little nudge, just surprise and delight. There's a term that is used a lot in hotel world and hospitality, which is surprise and delight, right? How do we surprise and delight our guests whenever they stay at a hotel, whether it's putting, old school, putting a chocolate on the pillow so that they feel great, remembering names, recommending places to go. Actually, random tangent, way before there was technology and data, to really try and provide a bespoke experience to hotel guests, what Hilton used to do was they'd go through people's trash. And I know that sounds really gross, but this is before computers and everything, in order so that they would remember, guest John Smith for them to have an even better experience the next time they stayed with them, they would go through his trash, and if they found an apple or an apple core, they would put an apple on his bedside table the next time he visited, or stuff like that, right? So surprise and delight. So what are those moments within the app that you're trying to build? Because those magic moments are really, honestly, going to be the differentiator on whether someone installs your app and uses it once or constantly uses it. And I really believe in that after he told me that, because when we built our technology with the 2Space startup almost 7-8 years ago, one of my first startups, it worked, but there was no magic moment. So people didn't use it the way that we hoped that they would use it, right? So think about your magic moments. And I really think those two pieces of advice are going to be super helpful to anyone out there who's not a technology founder or co-founder, or you don't have a tech person in your team, because tackle those two things first, right? Before you do anything. That's what I'm doing right now. That's what we're doing right now. So hopefully that was helpful. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll practice what I preach, and I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you how I'm doing it, because I'm learning as I go as well. Things have changed, you know. Just because you've started a company and exited 5-10 years ago doesn't mean you know how to do it today. You know, the landscape has completely changed. But that's what's exciting, right? So good luck. You got this, and I'll speak to you again soon.